Hi, this is Tina Campbell, the New York Regional Partner of Master Networks. We are a national networking organization, and we're here to help entrepreneurs and business leaders to hopefully pivot during this difficult time into the new norm, whatever that is. And today I'm excited because I have Karen Haas, who's a friend of mine, and she's going to be speaking about what is CBD and are the potential health benefits. So this is a good topic for right now, especially with stress, right, Karen?
It certainly is, Tina. A lot of people are feeling a high amount of anxiety and stress, maybe losing some sleep. It's been a very difficult time for a lot of people.
I know, and I know how you can help because I am, have, you know, been along hearing your journey for the last year or so, and I'm lucky enough to have tried the product, so it's great. So can you tell us about yourself first, and then you could tell us about the CBD?
Sure, happy to do that. And thanks for having me. Um, well, as you know, Tina, and many people don't know, I have quite a long history of various things in my background. But the way that I ended up in this particular business was a couple of years ago. I was a very active member of the International Facility Management Association because at the time I was with a painting contractor. And during a business dinner with a friend and colleague who's an energy efficiency expert, we got to talking about how marijuana and all the legalization and things that were going on in marijuana was impacting or potentially going to be impacting our use of energy because marijuana grow facilities use a huge amount of energy. So with that, following that conversation, we realized that there was nobody in our local chapter of facility managers that were growers, but we were really interested in finding out more about this topic. So fast forward a couple of months, my co-founder Bonnie and I went to the Cannabis Summit at the Javits Center, really with the objective of learning about energy use in grow facilities. But nobody was talking about that. What they were talking about were all these amazing potential health benefits of both marijuana and hemp, or as we tend to use the overarching term, cannabis. So we went through about 3 days worth of educational sessions, ranging on topics from what was happening legally, both in the state of New York and throughout the United States, the research and science that was going on in terms of researching medicinal benefits, investment opportunities, all sorts of topics. Now, Bonnie and I were two Westchester moms, and this was all new to us. Like, we didn't know the difference between CBD and THC, didn't know the difference between hemp and marijuana. So we were really left there with our heads spinning. Also, there was a trade show, as you have at any of these kinds of expos, and a lot of people were touting benefits of different products that were pretty outlandish. In some cases, there was one company stating that their product was approved by autism or could cure autism. There were a lot of claims, a lot of information. We were very interested in these potential health benefits, but didn't really know, like, who could we trust and what do we need to know if we wanted to find product for ourselves and our families. I've always been really interested in health and wellness. I don't believe in using a lot of pharmaceuticals. I really believe in being as natural as possible. So I wanted to know more about this plant, this miraculous plant. So we went away from there and started doing a huge amount of research, really, again, just to find things for ourselves and our families. Fast forward a couple of months after talking to growers and manufacturers and companies all over the place and really doing our due diligence in terms of the federal law associated with this. We then found a grower in Kentucky that had been growing hemp for many years, wanted to get some product, but we couldn't buy just a couple of bottles of something. We had to place a minimum order, and thus found ourselves in business.
That's funny. So you're going to share your screen, I think, and show us a little bit more information about what this industry is, right?
I am. So what I thought would be useful, because if your viewers are like me, many of us know that, oops, I got to figure out how to advance my screen.
Just use your arrow on your keyboard, I believe,
Nope.
to the right.
Here we go. CBD is everywhere. So a couple of years ago when I started into this, it was still kind of new, and people were still asking the questions of what is it? We weren't hearing that much about it. But then over the past year or so, it's just kind of exploded.
Yep.
I was driving out to Ohio several months ago to bring my son to college, and you could see that there were signs at the local gas station, and the local beauty parlors are carrying it. The little cigar shop around the corner from where I live has a big sign that says we have CBD. In fact, when Bed Bath & Beyond was still open, you could use a 20% discount coupon and buy whatever they had there. So it's all over the place, and the price ranges vary dramatically. But people are really curious in terms of how do I, what exactly is it? What are the health benefits? And how do I know what to look for if I do want to try this product? So what I thought I'd touch on are a couple of these points. What exactly is cannabis? The difference between marijuana and hemp. Why is it effective? Because we're hearing of all these health benefits, but there's science in terms of why it's so effective. What are some of the medicinal properties of CBD? And some of the different ailments that people are finding benefits of using CBD. So just really quickly, what's the difference between hemp and marijuana? Cannabis, which we often use in general to describe either of these two products, we often automatically associate with marijuana, but in fact, cannabis is the plant family. And within that family are these two different plants. We have hemp on your left side of your screen, which grows outside, very tall and thin, kind of like bamboo.
Yeah, I like the picture because of the gentleman that's standing in front of it. I never had any idea that
it's pretty amazing, right? If you use that as a perspective. Now, hemp has high amounts of CBD, or cannabidiol, which is what it's short for, and low amounts of THC. THC is the psychoactive ingredient. It's what we know from marijuana as what gets us high, right, or get someone high if they're using it. On the right is marijuana. Marijuana can be grown both indoors or outdoors. It's more short and bushy, and has the high amounts of the THC. So each of these plants, cannabis, again, being the family, has many, many cannabinoids. But there's two most prevalent and well-studied. THC, as I mentioned before, which is the portion that can get you high, and CBD, which is short for cannabidiol. The reason that cannabidiol is so effective is that we actually have within our bodies something called an endocannabinoid system. So just like we have a respiratory system and other types of systems, we have this endocannabinoid system. Now, many people have never heard of this. It was only discovered in the early 90s. And it explains why the cannabinoids are so effective. Because this is a network of receptors through our bodies that control some vital life functions, including our immune system, our memory, our appetite, sleep and mood, and pain cessation. So we're naturally wired to receive the benefits of this plant. And in this visual, you can see how it works in the human body. So we have receptors in our brain, and that's why we have where it's effective in terms of things like anxiety or depression. It's a neuroprotective. It's effective in relieving pain because we have these receptors throughout our body for pain. It's a natural anti-inflammatory, and that's probably the most critical thing to know about CBD. Inflammation, as we know, is really the root cause of almost any type of pain, any kind of disease. So if you can deal with inflammation in a natural way, as opposed to an anti-inflammatory that you might be prescribed by a doctor, it's definitely going to be better for us than putting more chemicals into our bodies.
Yes.
So again, these are some of the major properties of CBD. It's an anti-inflammatory, an antipsychotic, anti-anxiety. So there's a variety of conditions that are can be treated with CBD. Now we don't make any claims in terms of saying that this type of treatment is automatically effective. There's still a lot of research going on when it comes to cannabis, whether it's marijuana or hemp. There's actually a long history with those suffering from intense chronic pain, especially for those who can't benefit from traditional medicines as a result of, say, damaged organs or compromised immune system. So this is not something that's just new on the scene. CBD has been utilized for many years, which I've only just recently found out through the different types of research we've been doing. But some of the different areas that, people are finding benefit include severe chronic pain, help with migraines, different skin conditions, insomnia and sleep disorder, PTSD, and brain injury and concussion. You know, when we were at that cannabis summit, one of the panels that I sat in on was with a bunch of athletes, one of whom was a former NFL football player and had suffered many concussions. And he found that the one thing that was giving him relief was a regular use of CBD. Other ways that people are utilizing this help with HIV and AIDS, ALS, epilepsy, and a lot of research into all of these areas. Some of our customers and clients have talked about the value of the CBD tinctures in fighting nausea, for example, if they're in a chemotherapy treatment. So bottom line, and the question that's always asked is, you know, will it get me high? So CBD in and of itself is not psychoactive. THC is the psychoactive ingredient that you find in marijuana. CBD in and of itself, which is found in both the marijuana and hemp plants, will not get you high. Now I know that might be disappointing to some, but for those of us that want to be clear-headed during the day, but at the same time combating some of these different ailments that we've discussed, this hemp extract with CBD, which is the type of products that we are manufacturing and marketing, will not get you high. In fact, one of the great things about it is that it's the type of thing that young people can use. Even, you know, we have clients with children that are using CBD products for like sports injuries. Or, you know, our kids are kind of anxious right now too. This is a really kind of scary time. So those are kind of some of the high level points with regards to what CBD is. The one thing, I'm going to just come back to you, Tina. The
Yes.
one thing, or a couple things that we advise people that are curious and want to learn more. There are these products everywhere. It's important to do your homework because not all CBD is the same. Some of the things that you want to keep in mind is find out where is the hemp grown. Now hemp CBD is considered to be legal in all 50 states as opposed to marijuana. there are some further details in that. It's just not an automatic thing that it's legal everywhere. And we don't really have time for me to go into that with you now, but can certainly answer those questions at another time.
Well,
But find out, where is the hemp coming from? Where is it grown? How is it being grown? Many companies or growers will say, oh, our hemp is organic. But if they previously were growing tomatoes, and it's only been a couple of years, there could still be toxins in the soil. The roots of the plant pull up everything that's in that soil. And you can find out more by asking a manufacturer for their lab tests, where you can see if there's heavy metals or if there are any toxins in the plant itself. There are various extraction methods in terms of how to extract the CBD from the plant, some of which can be very dangerous. So those are the things to look into as well.
so can I ask you a question? So
Yeah,
with your company, what is, I'm just curious, what is that extraction method? Just in a, I'm just curious, how do they extract it? Is it like just,
what's being extracted, as our growers into Kentucky uses what he calls Kentucky bourbon, or with alcohol, as opposed to another toxic type of extraction methodology.
that's really interesting, right? To take a,
It's very clean. Are there other ingredients in the product? So, for example, we were very intent on having a very pure, very clean product. So we have just a couple of products, and our tinctures are just this pure CBD mixed with a coconut oil as a I forget the name of it, mixed with coconut oil. And then we have a couple of essential oils to use as flavor, because the pure CBD in and of itself doesn't taste that great, although some people don't mind it.
but and that when you say tincture, that you mean it's like in a dropper, correct?
Right. So there are various ways to ingest or to use this product. There's a tincture, which is just a dropper and oil, the coconut oil being the carrier. There are gummies, which we don't have. There's a topical cream, which we're finding people do find to be really effective pretty quickly, because it's applied directly to an area. So I think you had an injury that you used it on, or like I have arthritis in my hips. I use it for that.
Yes, and actually I had it on my desk because I use it for because I broke my fingers last year, so I definitely have some more kind of arthritis pain, especially working at the computer all day long. But my husband recently fell and he hurt his wrist, and now he stole it. So I have to steal it back from him, because he was just like, wow, what is that? And I was just like, he said, put that on me. So I had to put it on his wrist or whatever. It was kind of funny. But the important thing, he goes, wow, that was a lot faster of a recovery than expected. So it really does, it really does help. So,
well, everybody's different. So one of the things that are always really conscientious about saying is all of our bodies are very different. And some people do get almost immediate relief, as your husband may have described. When we first started, my yoga instructor came into class one day and she couldn't straighten out her arm. She had pulled a muscle in her bicep. And after class, I put some of the cream on her and I gave it to her to take home with her. I said, put it on a couple of times for the next 24 hours, see how you do. The next day she walked in with her arm straight out. And she said in the time that it took her to drive from the studio to her home, like 20 minutes away, next thing she knew, she was putting away dishes out of the dishwasher. And some people do get that really quick response. For me, it took me a good 2 weeks probably of regular application of the topical on my hips before I started to really notice the difference.
yeah.
So everybody is different. Our bodies are different. Our receptors are different. Some people, it takes longer to get into your system. It's important, like anything else, Tina, to give something a chance and to be consistent.
Right.
Because it's not one of those things that is a one and done. If you think that you're going to put it on one time and
You
There'll
know
be
what?
a miracle cure. It's unlikely.
Let me ask you like a last question on that. Should, if somebody's concerned, it's not the top, not the putting the topical cream on, but if somebody's concerned about taking something that they don't know, if how it's going to affect them, is
Mhm.
there any suggestion for that?
So at this time, there's no known side effects for the hemp CBD. However, what I would say to anybody is that if you're taking any other medication, you should always consult with your doctor. The problem, of course, with that is that in general, the medical community is not as up to speed, perhaps, as we would like them to be. The only uh, the only drug that I'm aware of that you shouldn't be using a tincture in conjunction with is if you're on a blood thinner. So it can have a similar effect as grapefruit. Like I know that my husband's on Coumadin because he had a heart attack years ago,
Mhm.
and so he was told not to have grapefruit. Um, so always, do your homework.
Mhm.
I'm not a scientist. We're not doctors. We've just been really passionate about learning more about this.
Great.
So we always all have to be our own advocate,
Oh,
but I'm happy to answer any questions. And we also, just one last thing, if you're interested in finding out more about a particular ailment, we always use the National Institute of Health website, and you can go on to that and just type in CBD and irritable bowel syndrome or CBD and chronic pain, and it'll pull up all the most recent research.
Oh, that's great. So they can always, so they can do a little, they could do a little investigation, but you can help to point them in the right direction, I think, right?
We can do our best to try, yes.
That's it, right? Well, thank you. This is, I found, you've taught me just over, this time today, but also in the past, a little bit more about this. And I think this is something that people should just know about, and they should, if they're interested, they could just come your way just to be, just to talk about it. And if it's something that might work for them or their family. And I just want to say thank you so much for doing this with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tina. It's always great to see you.
Right. And we're going to put all your contact information below and people can contact you then. All right.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks again.